So this is lecture B of Decisive Moments. So here is Henry Carter Brinson's first Leica model, Leica 1. We talked about the Model 3, saw an image of it. And really this camera uh, was first used in the film industry, basically doing test exposures and uh, things of that nature. So when they, are starting to do the actual filming, they know how to set up the cameras and things like that. So this was so what the cinematographer or the director might, have this camera going around taking pictures on location or during production and uh, stuff of that nature. And then because like I talked about how it's kind of simplistic, easy, small, light camera to use, it became popular with photographers. So one of Brinson's, capturing things at the right moment, behind the Gare Saint Lazare in Paris, uh, behind a train station. So the person, kind of running through this, large puddle of water here, and you know, capturing the moment where it almost seems like they're kind of floating above the water. Uh, and so one of his books, Decisive Moments, kind of where the whole lecture gets the name from. Uh, and it's all about, like I said, the capturing that particular moment, capturing that instant. Um, as all the examples from the other lecture, you're pretty familiar with what's going on with this one. Um, so this little situation here, Alicante in Spain. So what's going on here? It's like a lot of these images we just kind of walk up into this situation. They're very sort of voyeuristic in a way. And so, in a way, it's kind of hard to figure out sort of what's going on. So here we have Dassau exposing a Gestapo informer, 1945. So basically, after the war is over, um, and the Gestapo was like the secret police uh, in Germany that would, you never really knew who a Gestapo informer might be, who might be working for the Gestapo. So essentially, when this informer is caught, it's kind of they're one lady's pretty happy about it. Uh, the things that happen to the people that worked uh, with the Nazis, with the Germans. Uh, some of them met the same fate of some type of execution, or some just publicly shamed. Shaving people's heads against their will was kind of a popular thing to do. Uh, Tearing their clothes off so that they have to walk around just their underwear, or possibly completely nude. So this sort of the moment where this person is exposed and it's brought to their attention, where like I said, this one lady's pretty happy about everything, and everyone else is, you can tell that they're they're not happy. This could have been someone they originally trusted, and they're the trust was lost and broken from it. Uh, in the indecisive moment, Robert Frank. Sometimes this can be referred to as shooting from the hip, so that you holding the camera down, so you don't want someone to do a pose or upset someone. So the idea behind this, hold the camera down where it's sort of inconspicuous and no one's really paying attention. You're not looking through the viewfinder, so you can capture these sort of real genuine moments. What Robert Frank is after, sort of these candid, real moments. And one of his books, The Americans, from '59. So kind of an interesting take here. So here's the original cover for it in 1959. In 1998, it got a revision. So what's wrong with the photograph that Robert Frank took? Well, Trolley, New Orleans in 1955. What was going on there? And really what Robert Frank shows us about ourselves, I think we can kind of understand. Not a whole lot of explanation should be said about this particular photograph. And then, of course, every now and then there's, is this still valid that he's showing us? I try not to get into politics and things like that, but it's hard to deny a lot of things. So essentially, Robert Frank showing that Americans, we're racist bigots, we're hypocrites. The list could go on and on. Like I said, this particular photo pretty much speaks for itself. It doesn't take too long to figure out what's going on there, especially given the year of 1955, when there still was segregation and all of that, especially in the South. So his movie premiere, Hollywood, I think is kind of interesting, to where he did not capture the movie star. She is out of focus. Who was in focus? Well, it's the fans, the adoring fans, the diehard fans. Basically, if it wasn't for the fans, the people going to see her movies, she wouldn't be there. So why do we not ever think about the fan, or sort of give them their attention, give their sort of moment in the spotlight? So basically what Robert Frank is doing, showing the fans in this one, and not necessarily the celebrity. It's another Charleston, South Carolina, from his book, The Americans. So again, yeah. So it's, some of the times, trying to, he's capturing this moment, capturing what's going on. Sometime we talked about, capturing the real. What is real? Um, in our history, it's kind of as real as it gets. His photos are not, sugarcoating that much. Uh, so, then Freelander, um, Lost in Space. A lot of playing with shadows in his particular images. And then just same time the emptiness of it. It's always these kind of cityscape imagery where here it is a street corner, but yet there's nothing there. Um, so just the empty, wide open space. And this one from Lafayette, Louisiana. This one's kind of interesting. Like I said, again, it's all about the shadows. So take a moment. What's going on with the shadows? What do you notice about these shadows in this photo? And basically, yeah, you can see his shadow there on the telephone pole. So it's like as you're given sort of this identity. You're the photographer in this photo. Gary Winogrand, I think might have talked a little bit about him before. Um, so Gary Winogrand, he's a street photographer. So kind of think, kind of just going around. He might yell or cause some type of commotion to get a reaction, or do some type of do something to startle you. Um, when right before he would take your pictures. So kind of interesting where exactly what's going on. Is it a car wreck about to happen? Just what's going on with this one? And then the American Legion Convention, Texas, 1964. Um, what do you notice about it? What's going on here? So, what do we say about the guy that has no legs here? What sort of interesting. It's like no one wants to look at him. It's he's there, but no one's looking. Maybe no one wants to look. Maybe it's that getting the idea of comfort level. No one's really comfortable with this guy there. So they're afraid to offend, or maybe they're so narcissistic they don't want to have to deal with him, but yet he's there. He's in this photograph. And then photojournalism versus the real. What photojournalism, like looked at Dorothea Lange, especially, she comes to mind with, some of her images, the mother with the children. We talked about it. Uh, so Larry Clark versus Mary Ellen Mark. Which one seems more real Which one seems a little more kind of a genuine moment? Which one seems sort of glorified in a way? Um, so where the image of Larry Clark is untitled from his book Tulsa. We'll look at some of those pictures in just a moment. It's just you can just say conversation starts. I got a gun, and shows his Larry Clark his gun, whereas the Mariel and Mark, Rat and Mike with the gun, questionable why he has a gun. Well, what's going on there? Does he need that gun? Why is he showing us his gun? So it's just kind of interesting because Larry Clark's look, his look at Tulsa about just the life in Tulsa where he grew up, where there's just a lot of drugs and kind of craziness going on. Mary Ellen Mark going out and spending some time on the streets of Seattle, where Seattle has like a huge homeless population, especially with teenagers. It's kind of the background story of these photos. So yeah, it's like Mike doesn't really have to show his gun, but maybe Mary Ellen talked him into it. So looking at Tulsa, and said Larry Clark grew up in Tulsa, so it's like him photographing his friends, just going back and kind of reliving his life and the people that he grew up with, the people that he hung out with, what his life was like. So documenting the people he knew, showing you the real side of Tulsa. At one point, Tulsa was like a huge money city from the oil industry. So it was like kind of a glitzy, glamorous city, and then over a period of time, as the oil boom goes away, I guess you could say the seedy side starts to take over Tulsa. So that's what Larry Clark, this real side of Tulsa, not this fictitious side of Tulsa where well, we've talked about it before, where things just swept under the rug. We don't want to know about these things. Well, let's just pretend they don't exist. Well, this stuff does exist. It's out there, and that's what he's trying to show us. So Untitled. So speaking of the drug problem, a huge heroin problem that was in Tulsa. So taking a photo of a heroin user that she also happens to be with child. So pregnant lady shooting up heroin because of her addiction. So it's the blatant realness of it, where we don't want to talk about it. Let's just pretend it doesn't exist. But yet, through photography like Larry Clark, it exists. We see it. One like the Mary Ellen Mark. I doubt Larry Clark convinced anyone to do anything for this photo. So the other question that kind of gets asked is, if you're a photographer taking these kind of pictures, what type of legal troubles could you get into? I mean, for the most part, if you're not partaking, I would say fine, but wrong place, wrong time could come up with it. So just be smart. Don't do heroin. No. And then, of course, kind of the end result of something like this, the premature death of a child. So, yeah, the realness of it. Capturing the moment is not always the feel-good, happy moment. It's not always the wonderful moment that we're capturing, or the weird, awkward moment. So, so that's it. Next week we'll have a new lecture.